Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, then we'll have a look at the longer range, look at the GFS, GM, ECMWF and the ensembles, as it does look likely we're going to remain very warm for the next week to 10 days. However, there are signs today that we could be turning cooler, or at least towards average, maybe even cooler than average come early November. So very warm over the next week or two, and then potentially much cooler into the start of November. So big temperature changes coming along with that. Of course, with the warmer air at the moment, it could reach 20 degrees over the next few days. And of course, warmer air with some instability out to our west, it could produce a lot of heavy showers and maybe even some thunderstorms once again over the next week or two. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if you start on the live radar, you can see precipitation is pushing up from the south at the moment, and it is producing quite a bit of heavy rain for southwest England, parts of Wales and southern Ireland. It will spread northwards, so areas east of this shouldn't be impacted too much by it, but there still will be quite extensive precipitation around in the west. Now I've got this around 4 p.m, and if we put on the temperatures, you can see it's quite a warm day. Look at those widespread yellows and even tints of oranges there, which is mid to maybe high teens. So really quite nice and pleasant out there. Just shows you what those temperatures will do even towards the end of October, when we do have those very warm upper air temperatures. So yeah, another very warm day today. It might not feel like it, but for this time of year, it really is quite warm out there indeed. Now, if you go over to the UKV and see what that is showing over the next 5 days, you can see over the course of this afternoon that precipitation heading in from the west. It could nudge eastwards, perhaps overnight, but mostly giving heavier rain in the west overnight tonight. Into tomorrow, showers do push in from the west, but mainly over Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, maybe across the south as well through tomorrow afternoon, but quite a few areas are pretty dry and it will be quite warm out there. As we head into Thursday, more showers pushing in, could be heavy and thundery some of these, and through Thursday afternoon you can see them across Northern England, Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland, but nothing too crazy elsewhere for more heavier rain pushes through on Thursday evening, potentially giving some real quite heavy squally rain through the early hours of Friday, before slowly clearing through, and by Friday night things are quite a bit drier, but there are some heavier showers in the north and maybe some more persistent rain nudging in from the south overnight into the early hours of Saturday, and that could persist through Saturday, even perhaps into Sunday as well. It's got weather fronts trying to push up with warm air. You've got those upper air temperatures, warm air trying to nudge up, so these warm fronts trying to push in, but they're slowly getting pushed away as we do head towards the start of November, with cooler air in from the west and the north looking quite likely. But for the time being, as I said, it is incredibly warm. And if we do have a look at those max temperatures over the next couple of days, you can see this afternoon those temperatures rose to around 15-17 degrees, maybe or even 18 degrees in a few spots. As we head towards tomorrow's max temperatures, you can see they're rising perhaps even higher, maybe even 19 or maybe even an isolated 20 degrees is possible there. And into Thursday, those temperatures once again rising quite high, maybe again 18-19 degrees, and again Friday 18-19 is possible. If we do finish on Saturday, again cooler in the south because we've got precipitation moving in, but areas to the north that could still be mid to maybe high teens. And again, it does not sound too exceptional because that's sort of been cold for the summer months, even to parts of September. But for this time of year, end of October, start of November, this really is pretty exceptional in terms of persistent as well. You wouldn't it's not particularly rare to see maybe a 15 or 16 degree. We do a slight wedge of warmer air up with a low pressure system, but it's this persistent days and weeks of these mid to high teens because we just got air wafting up from the southerly direction. It really is quite exceptional, but it will be changing as we head into November with much cooler air pushing back in. Now, if you go over to the GFS and see what's happening over the next couple of weeks, now you can see the southerly wind at the moment is pushing in, and it remains fairly warm and southerly over the next, as I said, 5 to 7 days at least. As we head towards Halloween into Monday, still a southerly flow, and then a low pressure system nudges in, and we see those winds veer more from a westerly. And as we head towards early November, that looks like the theme. Things turning much more westerly and potentially cooler with the wind directions coming in from the north and the northwest. So again, nothing crazy cold, but definitely more of an unsettled, cooler feel. We can see that well by looking at the upper air temperatures. You can see very warm air moving in over the next few days, 10 to maybe even 15 degree isotherm pushing in at times, nudging in the southeast, for eventually next week we do still see some milder air, but eventually those greens push back in, which is freezing at 850 HPA. And even below that, those are the sort of temperatures we'd expect to be seeing, at least at times, for this time of year. And all the way to 384 hours, you can see a lot more persistent greens showing there. And again, it's not crazy cold. Look at the deviation. It is around 2, maybe 4 degrees below average, so nothing exceptional at all. But if you run to what we're having at the moment, you can see a good 10 to maybe even 12 degrees above average in the far southeast corner. Exceptional upper air temperatures over the next 5 days before we head much cooler, as I said, into early November. If you do have a look at the GEM, see how that does compare over the next 10 days. Again, a southerly wind pushing in, remaining very warm and mild with the winds up from the south, for eventually, as we head towards that day 7 to day 10 time frame, a westerly foe pushes in and it turns much more unsettled, but also a lot cooler as well. Again, you look at those upper air temperatures right towards the end of the run, much more greens pushing in from the north and the west, showing it is, as I said, turning cooler. Again, you can see that well emphasised on the temperature deviation, more towards average, if not slightly below average. But again, it compares nothing to what we have now with those lows of the darker reds nudging in, showing upper air temperatures are peaking around 10, maybe even nudging towards 12 degrees above average this time of year. An exceptionally warm end of the month, and it's literally as soon as we head into November, it all switches to more of an average to maybe cooler than average westerly flow. Now, if you finish for the medium range models and the long range models, we'll have a look at the ECMWF. Again, a southerly wind at the moment, remaining very warm and mild, before eventually we do see low pressure rumbling off the Atlantic. So not only would it be turning more unsettled, we do have quite a bit of rain around at the moment, but it will be turning even more widely unsettled, but cooler as well. This would even have the winds veering more from a northerly direction, and it would turn things considerably cooler. Initially, we're not in too much of a cold air mass, but cold air is plunging out of the Arctic there, and not only could head towards the UK, but could also help spin up low pressure systems, creating even more unsettled conditions. So yeah, very, very interesting seeing that in the longer term. So very mild for the short term, turning cooler in the longer term. And again, you can see that emphasised looking at the temperature deviation, blues in the longer term, but in the short term, even into the mid-range up to day 7, loads of darker reds moving in, showing how warm it is across northwest Europe at the moment. Now, if you finish the video by having a look at the ensembles, you can see it's very well reflected on the GFS ensembles today. Look at that, incredibly mild for this time of year. A good 5 to maybe even 10 degrees above average at times over the next week. But as soon as we head towards early November, it all flips to average, maybe below average, and the precipitation does increase. More widespread low pressure means, of course, we'll see more widespread rain. So yeah, warm and dry for some over the next week or so. There will be wetter periods and heavy showers, maybe some thunderstorms, but there could be some dry weather as well. As you can see, the ensembles aren't too high, but they are still there in terms of precipitation spikes. But it's longer term where we see some big spikes, those decreasing upper air temperatures. And if we compare that to the 2 meter temperatures, you can see a big correlation there as well. At the moment, daytime highs around the mid to high teens, maybe even touching on 20 degrees. Give it a week or two, daytime highs struggling at 12 or 13 degrees, and lows getting down into the mid to high single digits, so much more towards average, if not below average. So big step change coming, at least 5 degrees in terms of daytime temperatures. And again, that doesn't sound exceptional, but it really is quite a lot this time of year, and will make a big difference to the feel-like temperatures out there. And if we do compare it to the ECMWF ensembles, the midnight run hasn't fully come out, unfortunately. I don't know why it's not fully updating. And again, trouble with the midday run as well, but you can see the same sort of trend, very warm over the next week, and then into early November it does drop towards average. Don't know why those on members aren't fully updating. Must be an issue on Meta Central or from getting the data from eCMWF. So we'll have to see if that does update properly in the next couple of days. But at the moment, from the data that we can see, it is showing a very, very similar sort of trend in terms of warm over the next week or two. Still precipitation around, but not quite as wet as it could be into early November, with much cooler conditions coming back. So anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you enjoy the warm weather over the next week or two. I know there will be rain around, there will be some miserable cloud and thunderstorms maybe, but it is still warm, and it still does mean we don't have to be getting, we don't have to be dealing with any frost or any real cold weather, no hats and gloves, no real big windy weather, stuff like that. We're not having to deal with that yet, but it will be coming over the next week or two, and potentially the next couple of weeks in general. So make sure you do enjoy the warm weather, even though some areas will see some miserable rain. Do enjoy the temperatures, because as I said, turning cooler into November. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.